Hey, what's up? My name is Sam. I play Dungeons & Dragons, a hobby that my parents thoroughly don't understand. How do I start this video? I don't know how to start this. Hi, my name's Sam. I love playing Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, you probably do too. Or else you just clicked on this video and were like, yeah, sure, I'll look up a Dungeons & Dragons thing. It's a great game. Try it out. But my favorite aspect of the game is the storytelling aspect. I really love how you're able to create characters with your friends and take them through adventures that will alter who they are. It's one of the most engaging creative writing experiments and collaborative writing experiments I've ever really been a part of. And so here are just a few ideas of how you can try and create a compelling and engaging character in one of the most story-rich classes in the game. Today we're going to look at a few of my ideas on how to create a Warlock. Now keep in mind through all this that these are not the only ways to create a Warlock. Hell, it's D&D, you can make anything you want. If you want to create a 5-foot dragon that shoots cotton candy out of its mouth while riding a purple unicorn made of sand, you can do that in this game. This is off to a great start. This video is off to a great start. The Warlock class is a wealth of character opportunity for you because not only are you creating your own character to play, but Warlocks get their powers from a magical, otherworldly patron who give them their powers as part of a business deal as long as the Warlock does something for them. That's a lot of cool story opportunity right there, but it also means you're effectively creating two different characters, one that you play and one that your dungeon master gets to play. There are two big choices that every Warlock has to make which will define what kind of Warlock they are. First and foremost, who is your patron? What kind of being have you made a deal with? And secondly, what is your pact boon? There are three kinds of pact boons. Firstly, there's the Pact of the Chain, a tiny celestial, demonic, or fey creature that follows your orders. You can see through its eyes. It can be a spy, a confidant, a helper.
Oh, the dark bird is not my lover. Nay, just a friend. Make no mistake, the night fowl is not a gift for you. It is simply a confidant for me.
If you're the kind of Warlock that likes to wade into the combat, Pact of the Blade gives you just the tool to do it. With the Pact of the Blade, you can use your action to create a pact weapon in your empty hand. And technically this does mean your Warlock is always armed, because as an action, you just go, there we go. You've got your pact weapon, you're ready to fight no matter where you are. And as a bonus action, you can just dismiss it. Simple enough. And finally, you have what is, in my opinion, the best pact boon in the game, Pact of the Tome. With Pact of the Tome, your patron gives you a grimoire called your Book of Shadows, inside of which are a bunch of hidden secrets and special spells that only you can read. Taking the Pact of the Tome makes you a more spellcaster-focused Warlock, giving you 3 cantrips of any spell list in the game. Now that we know the 3 pact boons, we can talk about the most iconic part of your Warlock. Who is their patron, and how do you interact with them? Starting at the very top of the list, with Patron of the Archfey. Warlock of the Archfey is what I would call the Bardlock. You have an expanded spell list that adds to manipulation, changing, trickery, and illusion magics. Warlocks are a charisma-based class after all, so why not lean into that? In fact, what you could do is have a Warlock who doesn't want to admit that they're a Warlock. Take the entertainer background, become something of a traveling performer, and you can just say that you're a bard. You can hide that pretty well from the other characters for a little while if that is something you want to roleplay. Moreover, why would an Archfey take interest in you? In this example, let's say that the Archfey patron didn't actually make a deal with a Warlock. What if they're in love with them? What if being such a charismatic individual and performing so highly actually caused this Archfey to take a romantic interest? But, being a powerful Archfey, they don't like the idea of anyone else taking what they like.
I just don't like other people touching my things!
What if this Warlock had to hide from their patron, and all of their powers were just a gift that the patron gave them to win their heart? But it's actually pretty terrifying because, yeah, the patron will show up and kill anyone who flirts with you.
Where would I be if you got to know this girl and fell in love with her? Life just wouldn't be worth living if I can't be the center of your world.
That is a yandere.
So, be careful with that. With abilities like Fey Presence, Misty Escape, and Beguiling Defenses, you get abilities that allow you to charm or frighten, of your choice, anything around you. What if it's not your choice? What if instead, it's the Fey patrons? If there are people around you who are giving you a little bit too much attention, maybe your Fey Presence activates as a way of frightening them off because they see the vision of your patron over your shoulder. You could also use it yourself to charm an audience and get a few extra coins at the end of every performance. Hey, Warlocks gotta eat. And of course, for some patron inspiration, I highly recommend reading any kind of fairy tale you can get your hands on, because fae are tricky and all of them are unique. They cherish their uniqueness. Time to move on to our next kind of patron. Let's go a little bit darker and see what happens when you make a deal with the devil. Your next patron is the Fiend. The Pact of the Fiend is very close to falling prey to one of my most hated character traps, the edgelord. I don't like edgelords. I don't like characters that just hide away inside of the booth in the corner and they drink alone. They don't interact with the party. Like, stop. Try to make it work. Come up with a way that your guy, even though they've sold their soul or are under contract to get souls from others, would still work with the party. This Warlock is very tanky. For example, at the very start, you get Dark One's Blessing. At first level, if you kill a hostile creature, you gain temporary hit points equal to your Charisma modifier plus your Warlock level. So that highly encourages you to be out there in the field, killing things and taking health from them. You can buff this by taking the Eldritch Invocation, Fiendish Vigor, which, at will, because Eldritch Invocations are usually at will, and my god is that incredible, you can cast False Life on yourself as a first level spell without expending a spell slot. So in theory, you can roll Fiendish Vigor whenever it runs out and just keep track of how many temporary hit points you have. When those start to go away, you can kill something and take more hit points from that. Not a bad way to stay healthy in combat. As for roleplay, what if you weren't someone who was so down in the dumps about it? What if you're just playing a bad guy? What if your patron made you a deal that if you get enough souls for him, you get to join him once you die? Or, heck, what if you get high enough level to just cast True Polymorph on yourself and become him? Take his place. That's what I'd do if I was an evil guy. To roleplay this, you might want to take some of these Eldritch Invocations that let you manipulate things more to your favor. Maybe take the Misty Visions invocation. That way you could hold up a piece of paper that has everything anyone would ever want, and it's just a deal for getting your part of an adventure taken care of. The king says, "Oh, will you go kill this ogre for me?" You say, "Certainly, but I get to take whatever I find inside of its cave. Does that sound alright? By the way, you'll have to sign here." And it says, "Yeah, I get gold, gems, whatever I find inside the cave." And then they sign down, the Misty Vision goes away, and they see a little clause that they didn't notice before because it was invisible that says, "Also the soul of any one of your subjects that the ogre may have trapped inside of their lair." Now you go defeat the ogre, save a couple of citizens, and they all go right to your patron. It's evil, it's wicked, it's diabolical, and that's how I would play a Pact of the Fiend. For Pact Boon, I recommend going with either the Blade Lock by taking Pact of the Blade, getting into melee combat, and just being someone who can take as many hits with their Fiendish Vigor and Dark One's Blessing as they can deal out. Or you can be more of a caster blaster. Take Eldritch Blast, become a Pact of the Tome, and fire away every time you get into combat, causing massive destruction. I see this character as something of a Kimberly from Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yes, death. It's closing in. But what could be more beautiful than doing work that puts your soul at risk? Because that's what it means to be alive.
For some patron inspiration, I recommend reading Dante's Inferno. There's some crazy imagery in here, and you could definitely come up with some really out there wild stuff. Maybe pulling different spells based off of different circles of evil. But this has been pretty dark. I mean, we're talking about someone who pulls false life and steals souls. So let's take a turn real fast over to Xanathar's Guide and look at the other end of the spectrum with a Warlock patron of the Celestial. Celestial Warlocks are really interesting to me. I see them as something between a paladin, a warlock, and a cleric. They don't have all the spells that a cleric can cast, but they aren't quite as tanky as a paladin. They're somewhere right in the middle. And based on how you build them, they could slide further along either end of the spectrum. I think a big question here is, why are you a warlock of a Celestial instead of just a paladin or a cleric? Why don't you devote yourself to them and instead make more of a deal? Maybe you used to be a pretty bad guy, but someone found a way to redeem you. However, in order to finally save your soul and reach heaven when you die, you need to earn your way back. In fact, you need to become a warlock of a lesser celestial. There could be a Kyrene or a powerful angel that grants you powers to help people on the planet when they can't make it. But you have to listen to whatever they say. If there's a dangerous place that has people who are innocent and in need of saving, you have to go there when they call you. or else you won't be redeemed and you will not receive your eternal reward. There could be a really good redemption story in that, and one I'd love to see. As far as Pact Boon, I would go with Pact of the Chain. Imagine the little angel on your shoulder. Literally, it would sit there and talk to you directly from whoever your patron is, saying, hey, by the way, there's someone over there who could really use a healing spell right about now. By the way, there's like 10 giant alligators, but you'll be fine, you got all these friends you travel with. At higher levels, you can also deliver touch spells through your familiar. So if you can't make it over to someone to heal them with the healing hands, you can send your familiar to fly over, they put their hands and cast the spell through them. The gift of the ever-living ones would work really well with a chain lock in this situation, as after all, when you regain hit points while your familiar is within 100 feet of you, treat any dice roll to determine the hit points you regain as having rolled their max value. Just having your familiar nearby allows all your healing spells to do max whenever you get your health back. That's great, especially with how many healing spells you're going to have as a Pact of the Celestial. That's just awesome. If you're playing a healer, might as well do it all the way. For patron inspiration, I recommend again the writings by Dante, only this time check out Purgatorio or Paradiso. However, you could look up almost any work of religious significance because there are some insanely cool descriptions of heavenly and celestial beings across the world. I highly recommend you check it out, and you can think about why one of those might pick a mortal being to help them out on their mission. We're more than halfway through the patrons, and we're definitely into the weird side of things, as now we're going to take a look at the Great Old. The Pact of the Great Old One has you making a deal with an alien being from outside of our reality, one who touches the minds of those that come in contact with it and drives them right to the brink of madness. One thing to consider when creating a Great Old One patron is, why do they need you at all? Why have you come in contact with them? And what have they taken from you? In our example, we're going to be talking about a Warlock whose patron took their very voice. And before you start worrying about how you're playing a character that can't talk, don't worry, there are ways around that. Because at level 1, you get Awakened Mind. The Awakened Mind allows you to speak to any creature that understands a language within 30 feet of you. Just telepathically. Your mind reaches out, touches theirs, and you have a silent communication back and forth. This is the ultimate Spy Master character. This is great. This is awesome. I would play this character where they are never inside their own heads. They'd be frail and weak, having minuses to strength, con, and dex, but a bunch in intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, because it's all about their mental stats. That's all these people are. They're wandering around, and I would even put a mask on them. Because consider this, a guy with a creepy mask covering his mouth who never talks, but when he looks at you, you hear a voice inside your head. It would be like,
Hear me and remember, gate of the great gates of the spheres open unto me. Master, open the gate to the stars.
could you imagine how freaky that would be? Oh my gosh, I want it. I want to do it right now. Sticking with the theme of Spy Master and keeping your mind out of your own body or in multiple places at once, I would take Pact of the Chain yet again. Not only would that allow you to see through the eyes of your familiar, it adds to the idea that your brain connects to a lot of different things. You take that a step further with the eldritch invocation Gaze of Two Minds, where if you touch a willing creature, suddenly you go blind and deaf, but you can see and hear everything that they see and hear. I'm telling you, this is the ultimate Spy Master. They could either turn their familiar into a rat and send them scurrying through a tunnel to spy for them while they look through their eyes, or say you touch your party's rogue on the shoulder when you know they're going to go sneak into the king's chambers. That way, you see through their eyes and ears, and you know if they got in trouble. You also know everything that the rogue saw and heard inside, in case they try to lie to the party about how much gold they found.
And you never let that damn thief out of sight.
For patron inspiration, check out any work of H.P. Lovecraft. That's pretty much what this entire Warlock patron build was based on. And it'll give you mind-bending ideas on how to create the weirdest possible patron you can. Because hey, if you're gonna be weird, go all the way with it. And finally, going back to Xanathar's guide, we reach the last patron that you can have as a Warlock. This one isn't so much an extraplanar being, as it is just a very, very helpful piece of equipment. This one is the Hex Blade Warlock. Hex blades bind themselves to magical weapons that they either find, or maybe the weapon found them. This is the most combat-focused version of the class that exists in the game, even more so than Pact of the Fiend. You could theoretically take everything I said about Pact of the Fiend and just add it in here. You take the Fiendish Vigor for extra health, you could take Mage Armor with an Eldritch Invocation, makes yourself harder to hit, pretty good. And I don't think that I'm stereotyping here when I say most Hex Blade Warlocks are going to take the Pact of the Blade. I mean, hey, if everything about your Warlock focuses on this magic weapon, you might as well always be able to call it to you.
The sword just keeps getting cooler and cooler.
It's like it's the basis of his class.
For some cool roleplay elements, I would focus on the Accursed Spectre class feature. At 6th level, when you kill something, you're able to pull its ghost out to fight alongside you and serve you until you take a long rest. Think about how that affects your Warlock. Maybe you're much closer to the ethereal realm. I would take the Ghostly Gaze Eldritch Invocation, one that lets you once a day look into the ethereal realm, lets you see through walls, and maybe see a ghost or two. I don't know, it's a thematic element that I like a lot, even if the Hex Blade, in my opinion, is a pretty, drab class. I mean, I just think you're playing a Warlock to have a patron that you interact with, and now your patron's a sword. No offense, Ford. Love you. You're doing great. Just my opinion. For patron inspiration, look at the plethora of magic weapons that exist all throughout fantasy. Heck, you could take Hrunting from Beowulf, or the Damascened blade that he finds before killing Grendel's mother, and just write a whole backstory for it, and then pretend it was alive, and see how it might ask you to help it. Thank you very much for listening. With that, we come to the end of our discussion on Warlocks. Remember that this is by no means how you have to make a Warlock. You're totally free to mix and match any of these ideas I presented, or completely disregard them and create your own thing. That's up to you. I fully support it. Have fun playing this game and being creative. But if this has inspired you in any way, that's all I was trying to do. I hope you had fun listening to me ramble on and talk a little bit about what you might want to do if you're going to sign your soul away for greater power. With that, I've said everything I want to say. I hope you had fun listening. And hey, thanks for watching this long. Keep making good stories, and I'll see you later. Bye!
Dreams come true. I got voodoo, I got sage, I even tried. I've got friends on the other side.